Have you ever wondered what it would be like to go back in time and change history? Or maybe you want to go into the future and see how humanity has evolved? And time travel is one of the more fascinating and controversial topics in science and philosophy. But how does it work? And what are the ethical implications of altering the past or maybe the future, seeing the future? Dannelle Shugart is with us today to discuss her new book, The Future of the Impossible, The Physics and Ethics of Time Travel, which answers some of these questions, and some of it's positive. It's a positive outlook. So there's a study out from the University of Sussex that says 6 minutes of reading can reduce stress by 68%. As such, I am going to recommend this great book to you called The Future of the Impossible by Dannelle Shugart. Dannelle,
Hi,
welcome.
thank
Let
you.
me put us, okay. Welcome. So, I guess full disclosure, am the editor and illustrator of the book. So I have a bias, but I would not be doing this interview if I didn't think it was a good book. When you told me about it, I know you know this story, but I'm telling the rest of the audience. Um, when you first told me about this book, I was thinking, oh God, this is going to be very textbooky, and I should have trusted it because you're delightful. So I can't imagine
Thank
you were
you.
going to do something text heavy, um, because it's about time travel
Yes,
and the different ways we possibly can time travel, the research that is out there. But
yes.
when I read the book, I was astonished at how much I got into the book, which is hard for editing, but you know, um, and how well it was written for the layperson. And
Thank
as
you.
a sci-fi nerd, it really helped me understand some of the time traveling stories out there, which
Wonderful.
we'll discuss at another time. So, um, I thought I'd start out. Tell me about the book.
Mm, Thank you. I wrote
Hold
this.
on. There's no sound coming out.
Ah,
I'm such an idiot. I didn't put on my speaker because I took my headphones off. Okay. Go ahead.
well, thank you. Actually, you're one of my target audiences. I also kind of developed a interest in science fiction, and I also have an interest in science, but at the core, I'm a humanities person. So I often found the science over my head, but super interesting. So I actually spent a year for my master's thesis writing this book as a way to join um, really interesting, fun, cool science, mostly the science of science fiction, um, uh, but in a way that would teach you about physics. My thesis advisor was a NASA scientist, so he made sure that I kept on track. And of course, I'm a humanities person, so it was fun to kind of bring the two worlds together.
Yes. And I think you should write more books like this.
Oh, thank
But um, what I found interesting is, like you said, it's super cool fun. And I was thinking, okay, it's time travel. Most people would think time travel is time travel, no matter how you put it. And I'm trying not, I haven't read the book and excited about it. I just want to tell everybody everything, and I'm holding back. I think you should. I would love to hear how you would explain how you made this book super fun for a topic that's really, in essence, just time travel.
How I
I
met
know
my
the
aunt.
answer to it, but and I would lead it to your scenarios, just so you know.
Um, well, I wrote it for myself, to be honest with you. Um, I had a very good master's program, and they let you basically do whatever you want as long as it was in the confines of something plus ethics. And I I just
The
really,
ethics
really
section of this book is really, to me, the mind blower.
good, as it should be.
That opened my eyes to.
I didn't have at the time a physics background. So what I found was I gravitated to anything that made it interesting, made it fun, because I mean, nobody really wants to do boring work if you don't have to. So I I did so much research. I won't tell you about the library fines I incurred. um, and I found that there is a lot of fun physics out there. It's really interesting. It's dynamic. It's unexpected. It's surprising. It's crazy. Sometimes you think this physics is more out there than the science fiction that I've read, and it is.
Yes.
And so I tried to bring all that together within the confines of the topic that I chose, which was time travel, because I mean, let's face it, time travel is super interesting.
Yeah. You do talk briefly about the story. I think most of us have been told about there's a person on Earth and there's a person that goes off, and but what I was impressed with is the different types of time travel that could be out there, and I can you I should say, can you think of the types that you go over in the book, and also um, if there's any you left out? I'm curious.
Ooh, I am for sure that I left some out. I am not a physicist, and I only had a year, and this was a while back, so the physics is always it's a living
Learning new
science.
things, yeah.
So I'm sure that I definitely left things out. I would have to say that some of the most interesting forms of time travel to me were wormhole travel. And there's a section in a chapter called Jupiter time travel. And there is also the speed of light. And if you want more, you have to read the book.
Well, I, you you're telling us the types, but a
Mhm.
lot of it is the explanation of them. I think most
Yeah.
people know the wormhole one, but your explanation of the wormhole was more interesting than I had expected.
Well,
It
thank you.
was, uh, I just always thought it was, you go in one hole, come out the other, but there's more to it than that, um, which I liked about the book. And again, much of it is in layman's terms. So
I did that on purpose.
how are you able to take scientific papers,
Mhm.
read them, understand them? Because I've read some of those papers, not the ones for this book, but I've read scientific paper physics, and they're heavy in math,
Yes.
particularly, but they're
Yes.
very heavy reading. Um, I'm curious, how were you able to interpret it?
So what I did was I started with books geared for the average person. Um, uh, Richard Gott wrote an exceptional book on time travel. There are books about Einstein that are more digestible than reading Einstein himself. And there was another, Dr. Green has an excellent book. So I started with books that had the kind of feel that I was going for. They were talking to the average reader who has an interest in all this dynamic, interesting physics, but doesn't have the math or the science background. And so that's where I started. And then when I found I needed to go deeper, that's when I did.
Oh, so when you first started reading it, you did mention you were exploring different um, science out there.
Yes.
Actually, I didn't ask you that. How what was some of the crazier things that you read?
Oh goodness. Um, let's see, some of the crazier things that I read. Do you mean crazier as in
It
so
doesn't
crazy?
have to be time travel. I'm curious how the research process went for this book.
Actually, one of the things that drew my attention the most when I was doing this book was chaos theory. It's fascinating.
Mm,
It's dynamic. It's nuts. And it's everywhere. And
chaos.
it is chaos, but it's neat because you see it in nature and art and everywhere you look. It's wild. I loved it.
Do I
In
hear
fact, I
another
started telling
book?
my friends, read this book on chaos. They're looking at me like I'm
Do I hear
crazy.
another book
I mean,
on chaos theory? I was very impressed with the way you described the different uh, types, even ones that we already know,
right.
and you describe it that it gave it more information than because like you said, I'm a bit of a nerd, love the sci-fi things. I actually was a space scientist when I originally went into um college. I had to change degrees because I ran out of money and had to switch schools.
Ooh,
But that's
ooh.
another story. So I understand how the papers work, and but
Mm.
you still gave an opening that was quite interesting. Um, Now the ethics
Wait,
and
wait,
the
let me back up real quick. Um, I have to say that one of the ways that an author is able to turn that information into something super digestible is to have to explain it to somebody else, i.e., their illustrator, what exactly you want done and why. And so your role here was extremely important, just so you
well,
know.
much of the illustrations that you had, you already had built. There were only like two or three that I had to read the material in order to, gather, make an illustration of. Um, uh, yeah, about two or three of them,
I had to I
but
had to
most
do
of it
the
you
same for
already
my
had a rough.
I had to do the same for my original illustrator
Ah, okay, yeah.
because she had, as far as I know, zero science background. She
Mhm.
was a dear friend of mine doing it for free because she loves me. And so I had to explain to her exactly what I wanted and exactly why I wanted it. And then I did the same for you. And I really feel like that really helps an author pull everything together in a way that is digestible and useful.
Yeah, yeah.
Because when you think about it and you write it,
Non-bias, I want to
different.
say the illustrations make it, man.
Yeah, they do. Definitely.
No, like I said, I thought it was well written, that it was very easy to, I mean, it took me some time, but to come up with a idea. Um, so moving on to the ethics of it, how, because not only the ethics, you imagine a future of how uh, it can be a reality that is not evil, or we go back and kill people, like all many time traveling
Mm.
stories go. um how did you find these the did you develop it in your head, or did you read about them? How did you come up with them?
So I am a bit of a nerd, I'm not gonna lie, and I love science fiction. I'm a big Star Trek fan, Doctor Who, Stargate. So I I had quite a bit already in my head to work with. And the other thing that I did was I took my time. When writing something this um convoluted, I found that it was really the best. I did it in stages. I would make a list of all the different ways that I think things could happen. And then as I was
Wow.
researching, I would see if I needed to add to my list or um, kind of uh, make make bigger some of the important parts that maybe I needed to flesh out. And then I would just keep doing that and always refer back so that as I wrote it, there was already a lot of content there. I just had to make it pretty. And then I would go back and that's how I did it.
That's impressive, because you did come up with some scenarios I, like I said, would never have thought about. That, yeah, I um was yeah, as I said
Well,
before.
thank you.
So
From one science fiction nerd to another science fiction nerd. Thank you very much. That is quite the compliment.
speaking of which, after I read the book, I was watching a Korean science fiction, which I gotta say, they have some good science fiction if you're willing to read a lot. You know, not all of them are dubbed, and the sci-fi ones particularly are not usually dubbed. But there's one called Sisyphus on Netflix,
Mhm.
and there is a scenario in there which I still haven't told you about. But I'll tell you off air because I don't want to give it away for anyone. But at the end, it's something unusual I never thought of. And when it was happening, I knew what he was doing. I went, oh my God, I know what he's going to use here. I know what would work because I had read the book. Otherwise, I would have been totally, what happened? I don't understand. But when I read your book and I saw that and saw the ending, well, it's not the ending because they have like a ending that I disapprove of.
Is it ever the ending with time travel?
This is true.
Hmm.
This is
Hmm.
true. um yeah, so that made watching science fiction, especially with time travel, more interesting.
I'm so
um
glad. That's the goal.
there are scenarios in here also. See, I'm doing all the talking here, but I really was impressed with the book. It's a quick read, um that I recommend it. But some of the scenarios that you put in the book, I never seen in time travel story.
Mhm,
That
mhm.
if anyone was interested in writing a story, I recommend this book. It will help you a great deal. It was an excellent book. I've been telling my husband he has to read it, and he's like, yeah, it sounds interesting. Um, and he's a sci-fi nerd too, and he's an engineer. So yeah, I can't. I'll let you. I'll have to ask him. But so any books in the future, yeah, of this strain?
Uh, well, why don't the readers tell me what they want and I'll start researching?
Oh, that's a
Yeah,
good one.
yeah. I'd love to. I'd love to do another.
Chaos theory. Now that you talked about it, I want to see it.
It's fascinating. Yeah.
So the book is That's Flip. Damn it.
It's fine on this
I'll
side.
have to fix it in the editing. The book is The Future of the Impossible: The Physics and Ethics to Time Travel by Dannelle Shugart.
Dannelle Shugart.
Dannelle Shugart. I was just thinking, like I said, you never corrected me, but I always think, am I saying that right? And I think I checked with you, but I was still slow to say it. But I will probably redo that and just have the picture of the book.
Okay.
Since this is opposite. These things. Okay. Thank you, Dannelle, for coming on.
You're welcome. Was that
Get
fun?
your 6 minutes of reading in a day.